Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Save SA Wine. Um, it's been, it's going to be a fantastic day today, and I think we're all excited about what might happen today and what might not happen. And I'm so glad that we're finally getting to a point where we might have some answer on what's going to happen in our wine industry. But before we start our live stream, well, the live stream's already started. But I just want to make a few announcements. And before I start with that, I just want to say a big thank you to the Fishwives Club Boutique Winery because they are sponsoring our live stream. They have a massive 45% discount on their lockdown special, which is huge. And you'll find the links in the description. So a big shout out to the Fishwives Club. And thank you for sponsoring and making this live stream possible. Without you guys sponsoring us, it makes it more difficult to do things. So the Fishwives Club have this unbelievable 45% off lockdown special. Then the next big news here is our group. Our group has grown to over 49,000 people. And I really want to say thank you for everyone in this group. We will definitely cross the 50,000 threshold tonight. And it's actually, fantastic that so many people from all over the world has joined our group. And thank you very, very much. Um, Also, we need to keep the pressure up and grow this group because our wine industry, as we all know, are facing a difficult time, probably for years to come. So we need to keep this group going. We need to keep everything, the awareness growing. So please, if you can invite people to facebook.com/groups/save SA Wine. The other big news today is, of course, that the cabinet is meeting, the South African cabinet is meeting, and that the president might make an announcement tonight. Of course, everybody in our um, industry are hoping and praying that the president will lift the alcohol ban, but we can never be sure. So we need to actually keep the pressure on about this as well. And I appeal to everyone to keep on sharing everything in this group. We need to keep the awareness pressure going. We are going to have a special live stream tonight, right after the cabinet meeting. So everybody should log in here. I'm not sure if the president is going to talk. I think the chances are relatively good, 90% and more. And it should probably either at 8 or 9 o'clock this evening. But we'll announce it as soon as we know during the day. Then the other announcement that we have is that we have free listing for Winelands businesses. So if you have a Winelands business, you're a wine producer, if you're a restaurant, if you have accommodation, if you have a spa, if you have a Winelands experience, come to our website. The all the links are in the description below. List your business. It's totally free, and we welcome you. We want to promote as many businesses as we can. If you're a consumer, go to our site. Like I said, the link is in the description. And go support our businesses. Go buy wine. Go book a spa experience, and go visit the winelands as soon as you can. So our social media action for today, is to tag a wine farm you love. So if you're on this live stream and you're listening to this, just go to the group. When you do a post, tag a wine farm that you love, or make a post about a wine farm you love. Let's give our fantastic wine producers in South Africa as much love as we can today. Then another announcement we have is that we are having a live training next Wednesday, the 19th of August at 10 a.m. We have a social media expert, Erica Taylor, um, and she is going to do Social Media 101. It's a free training. If you're in a business, if you want to start a business, if you're a winelands um, uh, in the wine industry, you need to get onto this. Again, the link is in the description, but I'll repeat it here as well. It's Social Media 101.gr8.com. Sign up. Erica is going to be a fantastic presenter, and she has some great knowledge to share. Then today we've got two featured podcasts that I'm going to play right after this. The first one is with Mirati. It's an interview I did a while ago with Rake Melk. Fantastic story. The story of Mirati is so steeped in history, and you guys will find it very, very interesting. And it will start playing right after I finish here. And then I'm having we're playing a second podcast, featuring a second podcast. It's an interview with Markus Schwemberger. Markus is the general manager of the Devon Valley Hotel. He's from Austria. He worked himself up from executive chef, and he's now managing the whole business. And a fantastic guy to listen to. Fantastic story. Austrian, came to visit South Africa, fell in love with the place, and are running the Devon Valley Hotel in the Devon Valley. Fantastic place in Stellenbosch. If you've ever been there, you'll know this is a absolutely beautiful spot. And talking about podcasts, if there's anybody else that wants to do a podcast or wants to be featured in a podcast, please come and just send us an email at visitthewinelands at gmail.com, and you can be featured on one of our podcasts, which is obviously, we're always looking for new people to interview, and to get to be interviewed on your podcast is actually great for your business as well, because you're getting quite a bit of exposure. We obviously put the podcast out on all our social media platforms, as you've noticed, and you will get quite a wide exposure. It will be on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram TV, on Google Podcast, on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, and on many more places. And you can go to any of those places as well if you actually want to if you want to listen to one of your podcasts. But contact us. We'll gladly interview. We're looking for more people to interview, and yeah, become become a featured listing on your podcast. Um, and then just before we start playing the podcast, um, I just want to say thank you again to our sponsor for the morning, the Fishwives Club. They've got a 45% lockdown special Anybody want that special? That's unbelievable. Just go to fishwivesclub.gr8.com. You get a case of Merlot and a case of the Sauvignon Blanc in that special. And just go read the details there. Fantastic wine. And yeah, let's get on with our podcast. Thank you for listening. Before I forget, remember to sign in tonight. Right after the president's speech, we're going to have a special live stream. We're obviously assuming that the president is going to talk. I think it's fairly certain, but come and do that. And yeah, we will definitely have an interesting evening tonight. And now on with the podcast. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Good day, everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today, I'm talking to Markus Schwemberger. Markus is the general manager at the Devon Valley Hotel. Welcome, Markus, and thanks for talking to us on About the Winelands.
Thank you. Well, no, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
It's our pleasure. How are you coping with the lockdown situation here in South Africa?
Well, it's not only in South Africa; it's a worldwide phenomenon. So yeah, I'm coping. I'm personally coping. Yes, I keep busy at home with homeschooling and some small activities that we do at home with the children. But otherwise, yeah, it's the industry itself is obviously rough. It's really rough. As you know, the hospitality and the travel sections. It's a huge challenge, but I'm coping. Yes, thanks, Will.
Excellent. So tell us, Markus, how did you get involved in this industry, and tell us a bit about yourself and history and stuff.
Well, my history, maybe here in the accent, I'm from Europe. I'm from Austria, and I fell in love with South Africa back in '96. You know, and then I came to the Cape, and I just immediately fell in love with this place. You know, and it's just beautiful. The people are lovely. The food, the wine. It's been just an incredible journey for me. And I'm actually come from a chefing background. I've been a executive chef in this hotel for 14 years. I've been worked around the world. I worked in Cape Town. I worked in restaurants and hotels. So the wine industry is actually fairly new to me. You know, like even though I've been working and pairing and playing with wine, but the wine industry as a whole is actually quite new to me.
Well, that's it. That's awesome. So, so you moved here 14 years ago. Where did you obviously you worked in Europe before that, right?
I worked in Europe. I worked in Austria. I did my training. I worked in Germany, in Switzerland, in Israel, in America, in the UK, in France. So I was a real sort of traveling youngster until I met the right Macy, as you say, and then the rest is history. And I'm now settled in Somerset West. We've got a house. We've got beautiful children, and we got a bond. We got lots of debt. So all the normal things.
Okay, awesome. That's fantastic. So, I mean, the Devon Valley Hotel is in one of it's such a beautiful place, the old Devon Valley. You know, tell us a bit of the history of the hotel.
Well, Devon Valley, yeah, it is an amazing place. I've been here for 15 years, 14 years as the executive chef, now 1 year as the general manager. So the hotel's history actually stretches back to 1947, and it's an interesting, it's a fascinating story. It was the family who owned this piece of land. They bought this whole cedarwood from Cape Town. It was a shipwrecking in Cape Town Harbor, and they bought all of this wood and they built this beautiful hotel back in 1947. And it had a couple of owners changes, and since 2003, the Louis family has it, and they refurbished the hotel. It's in a beautiful state now. You know, the gardens are lush and beautiful. It's been completely remodeled. We got 50 rooms. We've got 6 conference facilities. We've got a beautiful vineyard terrace. So on a bright summer's day, it's just the views are really breathtaking. You feel like you're sitting middle in the vineyards. You overlook the Devon Valley. You overlook the the Helderberg Mountains. It's a spectacular view. It really is. It's world class. The
Yeah,
only view who makes this is the beautiful Devon Mountain, but everything else is just, it's breathtaking. Working here, and it's breathtaking sitting here on the Davis and show some sundowners. So as soon as the lockdown is over, I hope we're gonna keep it up and running again.
oh, absolutely. I mean, and the view from there is just unbelievable. And like you say, you've got accommodation there. Actually, I think when people get married there, a lot of times the guests and everyone stay overnight, I would assume.
That's right. No, it's our wedding industry. It's big. It's huge. So we've got we actually, before the lockdown, we started clearing up a little wooded area on the back of the property, and we're gonna incorporate this into our wedding venues. It's gonna be stunning. It's gonna be right in the woodlands, like of Devon Valley. So I'm really excited. Our plans are just huge. What we want to do on this property, and just the wedding is one of them. So we're gonna be offering numerous different packages. And the one thing, what exciting thing, what we're doing at the hotel as well, we actually help you to finance the wedding. So in the future, if you have a wedding here and the lockdown is over and we're all up and running, come and chat to us, and we're offering that we can actually finance the wedding for you. So this is actually an exciting sort of thing we're planning to do. And the setting is going to be stunning there. We have the ceremony going to be on our manor lawns. You overlook the Helderberg Mountains. When this woodlands is carved out, and we finish with it in hopefully, I don't know when now, but it's going to be stunning. It's really going to be stunning.
Well, that's an awesome offering, financing weddings, and thinking now about, I mean, you're one of the few hotels in around that area where people can actually have quite, a fairly large event. Besides weddings, I assume you're focusing on the conferencing market as well.
Yeah, no, it's our bread and butter, Bill. We have 6 conference facilities, and again, we just upgraded the facilities. We've got it's our bread and butter. In winter months, we don't experience a large drop like other hotels do, because our corporate business is very strong throughout the year. And we have six conference facilities. We've got our 80-seater is our biggest seater of our venue, and we've got numerous breakaway venues. And this is going to be, after lockdown, this is going to be our focus. The local business, and we're gonna pick up where we left off, but we're going to be all guns blazing. We are ready to go.
Well, in terms of conferencing, I want to ask you, because obviously this is something that you mentioned, the whole tourism winter. Cape Town has managed as a city to fight that off by, with the convention center and with all the conferences and stuff going on, and you seem to do the same. But when the lockdown lifts, I assume your offering is going to be targeted at first more to locals rather than overseas tourists or overseas conferencing, right?
Yes, now 100% will. Yeah, I listened, I think yesterday or the day before, to the minister speak, and we don't expect a lot of international travel before December. So it's a killer for the hotel industry. So our main focus, our only focus, will be the local market. It will be the corporate market. It will be the locals. It will be the support locally.
So do you have any plans to attract local corporates? Any new idea? You're not going to focus. Are you going to focus? Are you going to finance conferences as well?
No, not gonna. Yeah. No, look, we have a marketing lady, and it's going to be an aggressive marketing campaign. Not only social media. Social media is great, but you need to go out there. You need to sell the place actively. And we have one lady, a marketing lady, and as soon as she's allowed to go out, she will be doing exactly that. There's lots of small businesses, medium businesses in the Stellenbosch area, Somerset West area, and we will be targeting. So we will be offering special packages. There is things on the pipeline. We're busy working online. How we can streamline the operation, how we can offer, how we can attract corporate and a business to the hotel. Now we are busy with that, but it's difficult to plan ahead at the moment. It's just difficult to see what direction is everything doing. Every day things changes, and so are we. We put things we put things on paper, and then it all changes. Then it all changes again. So at the moment, it's definitely a wait and see approach. But when the time comes, we will be ready. That's for sure.
I think that's the one thing that the businesses hate most is uncertainty. But one thing that I found certain at your hotel is going to be something interesting. And the last time I was there was well, about a few weeks before the lockdown, and I saw that you still you have some cats there in your lounge. It seems to have been there. I'm certain they've been there forever. What's the story about the cats?
It's funny that you mentioned that. We have one local cat. It was with us now for 6 months. It's a youngster, and just this last 3 weeks, since I'm in contact with the person who looks after the property, there's 2 more kittens have just arrived. So we actually got 3 cats at the moment. So 2 kittens and 1 older cat. So yes, yeah, that's cats and Devon Valley. It goes together.
It does go together, yes.
Yes.
So the other thing that is interesting that you offer that's a bit different is in your lounge or bar. I'm not sure what you call it. You've got a whiskey tasting. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, Cedarwood Lounge. Yeah, no. We've got 150 different single malt whiskies on offer. This is mostly Scottish whiskey, but we do offer Irish whiskies, and we offer some exotic whiskies. We got whiskies from India, Japan, Sweden, and Taiwan, and obviously the local whiskey, the Three Ships whiskey range we have, and some American bourbons we have as well. So our whiskey range is huge. It's one of the biggest in the Western Cape. It used to be the biggest, but I think there's other properties there that are quite big as well now. So it is definitely one of the biggest whiskey range, and it's super popular. It's really popular. And we're offering food and wine pairings. We have a new executive chef, and our whiskey range, it is more a focus on the New World whiskies. So the New World whiskey just have more flavor, and it's just a more fun whiskey, if this makes any sense. And so is our cannabis. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fresh. It's going to be just a little bit different, and that's what we're aiming for. Maybe I can just introduce Andrew Jordan. He's only started with us beginning of March. He's in lockdown as well. He's roaring to go. He got all those ideas, and he's the executive chef we appointed the beginning of March, and he's got wonderful experience. He was for 14 years in the UK and works for the Sheraton Group, for the Conrad Group, and so he is planning, and menus are ready. So now he's pairing it with the whiskey. So it's all good. It's all good.
Well, that's awesome. At least this time can be used for a bit of planning, right? And I know dates are difficult, but at least, like you say, you can plan venues and you can plan new products and new offerings. So that's one good thing.
It's one good thing, yes. And I'm like that. I'm pushing and I'm pushing and I'm pushing, and then all the work is just about done. There's only so many menus you can design. So now we're just hoping that the minister does us all a big favor, just lifts this lockdown soon.
Well, I hope so too. So the other thing that I've noticed is lately, I'm not sure how long you guys have been producing wine, but can you tell us a bit more about the wines you're producing, and also the winemaking philosophy at the farm?
Well, I can tell you my winemaking philosophy. This is the best way you learn about wine is to drink it. So, but we are having. The hotel is mostly focused obviously on hospitality, but we have 3 different cultivars on the estate. We have the Bush Shannon, the Cab, and the Pinot Noir. But we don't make our own wines anymore. For the last couple of years, we went into partnership with the Middle Flay estate. We buy wine from them, and our neighbor. Dion Schwemberger, he's looking after our vineyards and looks after them. So in the past we used to make our own wines with the Silverbell and the Ghost Tree range, but at the moment currently we don't, and we buy actually our wines from Middle Flay. We went into partnership with them a couple of years ago.
But you make the wines under your own brand, right?
We make the wines under our own brand. Yes, that's right.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So where are your wines sold? Mostly in your restaurant, or are you selling in the local market?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Mostly in our restaurant, only at the hotel.
So as a chef, how important would you say? I mean, you just told me your background is you've been a chef all those years. So the wine experience that a diner will have with his food. How important is that for for the
Well,
experience?
it's we have we are in the wine industry. Even though we are a hotel and our focus is hospitality and it is corporate and it's a wine. It's our makeup. It's part of who we are.
Mhm.
When you come to the hotel and you overlook the vineyards, you sit in the vineyards. So we're offering a huge variety of wines. I know the list is endless, but our focus will always be Devon Valley, will always be Stellenbosch, will always be local. So we have Devon Valley flights. We're offering from the Louisville range to the Middle Valley to the Clonmalvern. We're offering all the Devon Valley, and this all the Devon Valley wines. And this is what we are pushing. I think we have an excellent relationship with all our neighbors. The offering is called a Devon Valley Tea Tour package. So when the guests come here, they can come to the valley and to come to all the different estates. They can eat and they can drink and they can experience the Devon Valley in a quite unique sort of way. And it's a fantastic offering. It's very reasonably priced as well. It's just to bring a local awareness to the Devon Valley. I think it's working really nicely.
I think that's important that you say, you're working with the locals there, like Clonmalvern and all those people are making, all of them have a different and fantastic offering. But the Devon Valley, like you say, as an area, is such a nice offering that it has as a group. So it's important that you collaborate together. But the other important thing is, especially for your conference as well, you're only about 4 or 5 kilometers out of Stellenbosch, which is also important.
That's right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's like, so we are away from the city, but we are still very close to the city. So you get the feeling of the vineyards, you get the feeling of countryside. So it makes the people feel relaxed. Not only do with the corporates, and we work with the corporates, so we're offering for working cost challenges. We're offering brides. We're offering the full range of catering, and it makes a difference. When people come, because people come to work, but at the same time they come to relax. So it's like a package we offering, but it comes naturally. So people don't have to pay anything extra. They just come here and they naturally relax because they're in the vineyards, and and it works. So we get lots of support from the local medium small businesses, and it works.
So, Markus, I also noticed on your website that you have a few social responsibility initiatives. Can you tell us a bit more about those?
Yes, yeah, now we do. And the main social responsibility, what we're doing is the Louis family, is the Louis Group Business Academy. So we have about 280 students coming throughout the year through this academy. It's to learn about business, ethical business. The Louis Group is sponsoring that, and they're coming to Devon Valley. So it's a great initiative to learn about business, and to learn about the way the Louis family does business. But we do other charitable events throughout the year. But it's then more on the basis what comes to us, what's happening. If there's a crisis somewhere, then we're going to jump in and be helping. But obviously, as social initiatives, we still promote water savings, and with all our guests, we still promote social awareness, what's happening in South Africa, and it's basically our drive. So our main drive is the Louis Group Business Academy.
That's interesting. So, talking about the other social awareness thing we're talking about now is the coronavirus, right? And it's forced all of us to rethink our business models. So, do you have any changes or new ideas in mind in your business model?
Well, I'm a Christian, and I'm personally on my knees and I'm praying so much more than I used to. And I know the Louis family, they're strong believers. They feel the same. The whole business model is based on strong Christian ethos. So but we all know we have to do things differently going into the future. It's not going to be the same for quite a long time. Even though we have these beautiful refurbished conference facilities, we have this beautiful hotel in the middle of the vineyards. But in order to create business again, we have to think differently. We have to think out of the box. We're having online brainstorming session. We go to these webinars. We educate ourselves. but it is a learning journey for me big time. I think for many of us sitting in this industry, hospitality industry, it's a learning curve. Try to keep our staff employed, and as maybe I can mention it as well. I really want to honor the Louis family when it comes to that. They've been really, we haven't had a single retrenchment. We keep everybody on the payroll. So it's been amazing actually. The family is really looking after the staff really well. So but really it's a learning curve, and I'm learning every day. So Corona it's a headache, but it's not going to kill us.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and it's important, like you say, that you have the right philosophy and mindset to get through all of this. Talking about that, your whole journey through the hospitality industry, through first as a chef and your life journey. What is the most important thing that you've learned?
What I've learned? Mm-hmm. Well, I've learned since I'm at this hotel that wine makes every meal an occasion. It's every table more elegant and every day a little bit more civilized. I learned to love wine. I even at home, I love playing with food, match it with the wine. So it's a love. It's ingrown. And like I say, it's part of me.
Oh, that's awesome. So Markus, if people are listening to this, or they want to come and visit you guys, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, at the moment, we are still in lockdown, but we are available on our websites there, or on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. We are doing social media launches on a regular basis. So but as soon as we open up again, you can visit us. I'm here at the hotel Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 days. We've got banqueting coordinators, we've got booking agents. So you come to visit and we will help you. So and come and experience them. Really, come and experience our terrace. Come and experience the food we are offering. Like when you go on our website, we can only sell so much. When you come here and you see who we really are, this handmade hospitality we try to sell to our guests and our clients. It's tangible. When you come here, it is tangible. You can feel it. And I think over the years, we can show the success. We can show what truly handmade hospitality is all about.
That's awesome. I mean, Markus, it's been a pleasure. Thank you we'll put the links to all of this obviously in the description, but thank you for taking the time and chatting to us. And I think everybody listening to this can't wait to get to the Devon Valley. I can tell you myself that view from your terrace is one of my favorite views in the world. So, definitely looking forward to seeing you guys. And thank you for spending the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Cheers, Will. Appreciate it.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we'll be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, winelands businesses, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Before we start today's show, I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to our sponsor of this show, Lisa Loves Wines. Lisa shared with me that she has a very special offer for our listeners today. I'm not sure if our listeners are aware, but magnum-sized bottles are becoming very fashionable in Europe, and I think South Africa will follow suit shortly. So as part of her Biggest Beautiful campaign, Lisa will be offering a discount on 1.5-litre magnums. This is also a great Father's Day gift or a birthday gift. We will leave the details and links on how to get this awesome offer inside the description. Now, on with today's show.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today I'm talking to Ryk Melk. Ryk is the owner of the esteemed Marathi estate in Stellenbosch. Welcome to About the Winelands, Ryk.
It's a pleasure. Thanks very much for inviting me, Willem. That's very kind of you.
No, it's our pleasure talking to you. Thanks for taking time out of your busy life. How is life treating you with your whole lockdown situation and everything? Are you guys coping?
Yeah, I think we trying to think out the box, trying to make the best of the situation. And you know what? There are a couple of things. One thing is you learn how to perhaps box a bit smarter. Secondly, with all the time on hand, it's funny how family time suddenly becomes very relevant again. I don't think I have consumed so many bottles of wine on 68 consecutive nights in my life before. But we've had some really good family time, good chats and all that, and that's made it special. The stress levels are obviously high, but at this time, you start valuing what you've got around you and how privileged we are. So there is positive stuff in this.
Well, that's amazing. Marathi is such a special place. I remember from my students' days, that was one of the first places that we used to go on to wine tours. So I'd love to hear, and I know our listeners would love to hear a little bit of the history of Marathi and, the piece of heritage you have there. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's, if you come and visit us at Marathi, everybody's welcome. What we do, I try, if they make special appointments, then I will sit and chat about the history, because this place you need time to come here. Really, it shouldn't be a whistle stop tour, because we've got so much history here. If you think back of we date back to the year 1685, so what we did was, my mother back in 1987, when the Melks, my father Ronnie, bought the farm back from Annemie the spinster, my mother got a professor, Dr. Helena Scheffler from UCT, to do proper research on the farm. So Helena spent about a year in the archives and basically came up with this manuscript of the history, and it was so beautiful and rich that that is how we have taken Marathi forward from that research project she did. And that's where also a few years ago, about 8 years ago, I decided that I would start naming our wines after people that lived here over the past 300 years. So Marathi was established in the year 1685. So as a privately owned family farm, we, in the top 5 or so of oldest privately owned wine estates around in the country. And the history started with a certain German soldier called Lawrence Kampfer, who left the armed forces. He was a mercenary and was granted this land by Gouverneur Simon van der Stel, and with instructions in Groot Hollands, beplanten, bepoten, betimmeren, and bezaaien. And that is what he did here. So he came, cleared some land, tilled the soil, with the instructions given to him. But the problem that he had was, while he was a soldier based at the Cape, his barracks were very close to the slave quarters and to the gardens of the Cape. And there he met a little slave girl who was working in the gardens, and her name was Ancella. And this little girl, Ancella, was born in the slave house. Her mother was taken from Guinea in West Africa in the year 1658 and put on a slave ship called Amersfoort. And that ship sailed via Guinea to Angola and then to the Cape. And in 1658, 120 slaves were brought here, and Ancella's mother was one of them. So Ancella was born, she was a product of the slave lady and probably a soldier or a sailor, that we don't know. But the point was, Ancella was born in the castle, in the dungeon, given a name, and in those days, any slave born at the Cape, the surname was always van der Kaap, so that the Dutch officials knew where the slaves came from. So we know about Anthony van Bengala, he came from Bengal, and so we knew where the people came from. So this little Ancella she grew up in the slave house, and then when she was old enough, she had to work in the gardens where they grew all the vegetables, which supplied all the Dutch vessels sailing to the east. And that's where Lourens met her. So Lourens then comes out to Mirati. At that time, it was called the Driesprong. He starts his farming career here, his life. But his girlfriend, the love of his life, Ancella, clearly could not join him because she was a slave. So, and you know, Mirati is just outside Stellenbosch, and it's about, 35, 40 k's from Cape Town as the crow flies. So what Lourens had to do in order to see Ancella at the slave house was he had to walk on foot 3 days to Cape Town. And the non-slaves had visitation rights, so they could visit the slaves in the slave house. And what happened in the evening was 8 o'clock at night, they would take a roll call and check in all the slaves. And then at 9 o'clock, they would ring a bell and all the non-slaves were thrown out of the slave house. So Lourens did this for a period of 10 years. And
Wow.
After 10 years of visiting her, Ancella really obviously wanted to join him here at Mirati. So Ancella had to do a few things. And that was, firstly, she had to become a Christian. So she had to have herself christened. Secondly, she had to be able to speak Dutch fluently. And thirdly, she had to prove to the governor that she would be of no financial burden to the governor. So Lourens obviously said, okay, he will cover that base. She could speak Dutch and she was christened. So they set her free. And on the 28th of June, 1695, Lourens fetched her at the slave house, brought her to Mirati with the children now that she had by him, Cornelius, Jacoba, and Achaniki. And they were the first rightful owners of Mirati back in the time. Interestingly enough, when the title deed was signed over, it was 33 days after Simon van der Stel took control of the Cape. So that gives you an idea of what was going on. So then they lived here, and then in 1715, Lourens passed away, and then Ancella became the owner. So it's quite unusual though for an emancipated slave to become the owner of a little wine farm or a little farm at the time. So Ancella took over and she ran Mirati until the year 1735, and then she sold the farm. To give you an idea, when she sold the farm for 2,500 Dutch gulden. And to put that in perspective, a mercenary based in the barracks in the Cape was earning 25 gulden a year at the time. So
Wow.
Ancella, did quite well for herself in her life. And then there were quite a few owners, very sporadic few owners. And then the next important one for me or for the Melk family is that in the year 1763, my ancestor, Martin Melk, who came from Ostpreußen, from Prussia, he bought Mirati in 1763 and gave it to his daughter, Anna Catharina. And at that time, when Martin Melk bought it, he owned all the property at the foot of the Simonsberg Mountain, which then included Uitkyk, Kanonkop, Mirati, Delheim, and Knorroek. This was all one big farm that the Melks ran. So Anna Catharina married a guy by the name of Beyers, which Anna Catharina's father was in favor of, because like Martin Melk, Mr. Beyers was a staunch Lutheran. And I'm not sure if you know, but Martin Melk, at the time when he bought Mirati, was a very big player in the Cape. In fact, I think he was the wealthiest man at the Cape at the time, because he owned a lot of property. He was in construction. He owned all three, can you believe it, all three taphuis licenties. So basically, all three pubs in Cape Town that supplied wine to the sailors and everybody in the Cape, he had the rights to supply that. So he was a really big player. And so when Martin gave it to his daughter, he agreed and Beyers took a hand in marriage, and Martin and Mr. Beyers were both staunch Lutherans, and at that time, the Lutheran faith was verboten, was not allowed. So in Martin's warehouse in Cape Town, still there today at Strand Street, where they would sell the produce to the sailors and the ships, on a Saturday after work, all the Lutheran people used to get together and have a hidden church service, a scale kerk. And because of Mr. Beyers being part of that group, Martin was quite happy to hand his daughter over to him. So Anna Katerina and young David Beyers, they became the owners in 1763. And then this milk clan, Beyers milk clan, farmed here for about 120 years. And then it disappeared. And then 115 years later, in 1987, the spinster who owned it then, Alberta Annemarie, she then phoned my father because she knew my dad. Because as a young winemaker, my dad studied winemaking. As a young winemaker, he used to come to Mirati to buy grapes from her for Stellenbosch Farmers Winery. So Alberta knew the history. So when she turned 79, she phoned my father and said, look, I have no children, I have no next of kin, and I would like you to take the farm back into the family fold with a few conditions. And that is that, number one, you would continue in the tradition that she and her late father, George Paul Carnets, had farmed the place, and also to respect the environment. And my dad was only too glad to oblige. And as you asked earlier, and that's what I'm doing now, I'm here, I see myself purely as a custodian of this magnificent place with these 300-year-old trees, incredible terroir at the foot of the Simonsberg Mountain. And yeah, that's what I do. Every day I get up here, I look out northwest, I see Table Mountain, I can give you the weather report in the morning of what's coming, like the northwest coming in right now and the rain we're going to get. So it's a beautifully located piece of land. And I always say to the people, you know, Lawrence Comfer was granted this land. And in those days, we might think they were old or those people was in the dark days, but they were clever. He had all the land to choose from, but he chose this little piece at the foot of Simonsberg. So he was clever. And I can tell you when I sit there at his old house, which still stands today, which today is an art gallery, I often sit outside his house there in the evening, and there's such an incredible energy there. You know, there are trees around me there that were planted by Lawrence, and so the energy there is really special now.
Interesting about the trees is I actually watched the history of the slave trade in Cape Town not long ago, and I think in the program they said that the tree that these two were married are still there on the farm, the old oak trees. Is that true?
Yeah. So there's a magnificent tree right at our tasting room here. And this tree is more than 300 years old now. And this tree would have been planted by Lawrence and Ansela. And there are 2 or 3 other ones around as well that you can see. I mean, they are of the same era. So yes, absolutely. This tree is still here. It's magnificent, magnificent tree. And again, I sit here quite often and there's energy there in that tree that's just, I mean, it's just amazing. Really, really incredible.
That's amazing. You're giving me goosebumps as you're telling the story.
So, you know, all these little things I'm telling you now, Lawrence's house is still standing here. The original little cellar is still part here. George Paul Carnets, who owned Mirati from 1926. As you might know or might not know, but George Paul Carnets was an artist, first and foremost. Secondly, very much a bohemian man of note. And thirdly, he bought Mirati on a whim because he loved the trees here. I read his journal the other day. And in there, he did say that he was completely blown away by these oak trees when he stumbled upon this place in 1926. And that's the reason why he bought it. And then by default, he had to speak because he was lecturing art at Stellenbosch University. So by default, he went to his friend, Professor Abraham Perrault. And Abraham Perrault was very friendly with all the German-speaking people because Perrault went to Germany and he met a German woman there, which he married. So he had an affinity towards German-speaking folk. And he told Carnets, I will help you farm this place. And so when Carnets bought it in 1926, Perrault helped him They sent out people here to come and look at the soil, etc., all that. And Perrault advised Carnets to plant Pinot Noir. So Carnets planted Pinot Noir at Mirati in 1927. And we all know that the first Pinot Noir to Africa was made here at Mirati by George Paul Carnets. So my Pinot Noir that we make here, very small amount, but we still make it, and I have named that after him. It's called the George Paul Carnets Pinot Noir. So that, you know, there's a story about George here, and his energy is here. He had an art studio that he built here out of clay bricks that he made, and he built this art studio. The size of the studio was dictated by the carpet that he put down there. And this carpet, a friend of his, a noble friend living in Cape Town, bought a grand piano in Hamburg and sent for this piano by sea. And obviously, to protect the piano, they wrapped the piano in a big old carpet. So when the piano arrived here in Cape Town Harbor, the carpet was slightly damaged, and his friend didn't want the carpet. So Carnets took the carpet, brought it to Mirati, put it up here outside the cellar, and built his art studio around the size of the carpet. I mean, it's bizarre. And then he built this art studio, which today is a little guest cottage. So it's called the GP Carnets Guest Cottage. So people can stay there. It's just, you again get the energy of the old man Carnets. We used to paint there in the morning. In the afternoons, he'd go for a walk and look at his vineyards and talk to the people who were busy helping him making wine and growing his grapes. So, you know, there's just so much around here with the energy between the cottage, between Lawrence Comfort's house, between the oak trees, between the manor house that we have today that was built in about 1763 by the Bayers family. The manor house still stands there. It's exactly the same. Some minor alterations were done by George Paul Carnets. But the gable is a beautiful example of a neoclassical style. It's not the Gothic style. The later years, they were more neoclassical in the structure. They were not so elaborate, not so many curves and draaikies, where Mirati is a good example of a neoclassical design Cape Dutch gable, basically. So the house is still standing here. It's being lived in 110%, and it's all part of the verf and the feeling that we have here. When we go into the vineyards, because of our terroir, we made a conscious decision about 20 years ago that we would respect the nature by using no pesticides in the vineyards. We release insects that we get to try and fight the mealybug. We are very, very conscious of that. We only pick our grapes by hand, so there's no machine driving through the vineyards and harvesting. It's all done by hand. And when we bring those grapes in, it's in smaller boxes. We hand select on a sorting table. We berry select. We use a lot of natural yeast. So for those who don't know, each grape, little coral key, has got its little yeast on it. So we use native yeast that's around in the cellar and in the property. We use what we call spontaneous fermentation. And all these things add to give a character that's very much unique to Mirati. So I'm very, not strict, but I believe in that. And that is what we do here. So we try and keep it hands-on, as real as possible. And we still believe, you know, the truth is in the wine. And the wine must honestly speak for itself. George Paul Carnets had a beautiful expression. My quote for the wine expression is always, Carnets always said, seeing is believing, but tasting is the naked truth. And that's what we abide by.
That's an amazing wine philosophy and winemaking philosophy. What else can you tell us about your wines that's interesting? I see you guys are making port as well. When did this start?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think, you know, I call it in the sort of the dark ages. That's there was a bit of a dark time here in Mirati when George Paul Carnets came in here in 1927, and he had all the expertise from Perrault, and he was doing some fantastic work. He fermented his grapes outside the cellar in open fermenters. He used a system of cold water copper pipes. He was one of the first guys that used some kind of cooling, in his tanks, open tanks, concrete tanks. Then he went and then he built himself, at those days, state-of-the-art open fermenting tanks, stackable concrete, one above the other. They were stacked. And these tanks were built, the architectural design came from Algeria, believe it or not, in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, the French were involved there. So the French made wine there as well. And that design, Carlos brought it here. And so they were fermenting and making wine in these concrete tanks. He was quite sort of proactive and pushing the boundaries. But then when Alberta, his daughter, took over, she didn't want to change anything. She wanted to keep everything the same way her father did. So in that process, things slowly got watered down a bit. So the red wines and the white wines, some years were stunning. Other years, they were not very good at all. But Carnet started making two things. He made a fortified red, a port in those days. You called it a port, which though we can't use the word anymore, but we use a Cape Vintage, Cape Ruby, late bottled Cape Vintage. And he made a white port called the Amber. Now, those two wines, because they are made by fortifying with brandy spirits, you can, to a degree, sterilize your wine. So when you do your fermentation, at a certain point, you add the brandy to it. So the brandy will kill all the yeasts and all the nasty little bacteria, and it will sterilize the product. So there's a better chance that the fortified wine will stay fresh and healthy. If you made a still wine, be it white or red, and it was tainted with acetic acid bacteria, then the wine will spoil and become vinegar. So over the years, in the town Annemie and Ben Prince, our winemaker, port, the Mirati port was a very well-known drink and definitely one of Mirati's tipples of choice, in spite of the fact that there were some stunning years of Pinot Noir, etc. And the red velvet and the claret. But the port was always, if you came here and you drank port, you knew it was going to be a good bet to buy and to drink. And when I came here in 1988, 89, it was the case. Everybody knew Mirati port because Carnet started making that in the early 30s. So, and I totally agree. We still make a beautiful port, and we spend a lot of energy with that. In fact, the oldest vines we have here, port vines, were planted in the year 1977. So that's quite old. But I took it upon myself. I just said, we are living here. We're living. My neighbors, Kanonkop. My neighbors, Rustenburg, Knorruk, Delheim. These are all my immediate neighbors, and they've always made beautiful wines over the years. And there's no reason why we could not do that. So it's taken me about 20 years to grow that with new plantings and new barrels and some techniques in the cellar. But today, it's cheeky of me to say that, but I mean, the Mirati red wines are on the world class, on the stage now. I'm not shy anymore to pour Mirati wines to anybody. 30 years ago when I started here, I wasn't confident in pouring the Mirati wines. But today, I'm not cocky and I'm not, big-headed, but I really am modest about it. But I know what effort's gone in here. And I know what honest work has been put in here. And for that reason, I can quite clearly say now that apart from the fortified port wines, our red wines and the white wines are world class. It's taken a time, but it's there. Beautiful.
Oh, that's amazing. So, right, when people visit the farm, besides, obviously the wine and the art, what else can people experience there? What do you offer guests?
Well, before the little virus came along, my wife Kim started, she likes cooking. You know the old story, oh, your wife Kim, she cooks so well, why don't you start a restaurant? Don't ever tell anybody to do that. But we did it. And after 4 years of Kim working in the kitchen, she really grew something special here. It's not big, it's small, say 50 covers maybe on a Saturday or Sunday. But it's good, honest cooking, and Kim started that, and now we've got a little team working with her, so you can come and have a very nice meal here, apart from the wine tasting. It's the little restaurant farm kitchen that we run here. We've also now built, with the help of Topia, Mirant, and Arena, they've built fantastic mountain bike tracks here. And really, again, it's of the best tracks around the Western Cape, no doubt about it. It's all single track cycling. Trail runners use it as well. It is for the skilled mountain biker. It's not for the weekend warrior can come and do some of the tracks. But if you really love mountain biking and you're good at it, this year is absolutely stunning. All the guys, the overseas people, Team Cannondale, Team Scott, they all come and train on these tracks for the Epic. So we've got beautiful mountain biking here. And then we've started a little, well, not little, but we've doing a joint venture with a company to do weddings here. So we had a very good, book heading out now for this next year. But obviously the virus came and has sort of taken the carpet, ripped it out under our feet. So we just have to tread the water now until next year. But if you want to have a wedding, this is also an opportunity where you can come and do it. And what more special place to have a wedding here? I mean, it's just, you can get married under the big old 120, 150 old camphor trees, and then have a pre-drinks under Ancella's 300-year-old oak tree, and then move around the corner to the canvas, the Mirati canvas, and there your view of Cape Town is just superlative. So there are a lot of things we've done over the years here, but yet we still retain the honesty and the sincerity that this is a wine estate, and our focus here is to create premium wines.
That's awesome. You've been talking about the virus, and obviously the coronavirus has forced all of us to rethink our business models a bit. Do you have any changes or new ideas in mind?
Well, I mean, there are a few things. I think, as I said to you now, what I think is the internet or the IT guys, the more new way of looking at things. We've done a few virtual wine tastings now. This has really pushed us in the direction of Zoom meetings, doing online tastings. That's been quite interesting. It's really been quite funky for me. I've really enjoyed that. And then I think what we'll do now in the future, when the small groups come back again, tour groups that come, and if they make an appointment, which we prefer, we could give them far more smaller special attention, because I think the Mirati history, should be told more often to the people, and not just to come in here, let's taste 4 or 5 wines and move on, but rather come here and spend some time, listen to the stories, taste the wines, and absorb the whole package, instead of just saying, we're going to do 3 wines and then we're going to scoot off. So rather come here with your mind. I want to learn about the place. I want to learn about the history. If you're not a big lover of wine, it doesn't really matter, but come and listen to the stories, taste the wines. You will be surprised. You might love them. So these are all things for me that I find with the virus now, is that, people are looking at things again from a different angle. People walk past the Protea now and they stop and they go back and say, wow, look at this Protea. Isn't it beautiful? And where in the past they'd walk past and say, oh, well, there's another, one of the Western Cape's flowers, and carry on. But that's me. Maybe I'm becoming old and sentimental, but I do think that this has made us think a bit more about what we want to do and where we are, and our policy about everything in life.
Well, I think you're right. And I also think that, technology gives us the opportunity to record and keep these stories and raise awareness about the fantastic offerings we have in the Western Cape through other avenues, right? Which will bring more people to come actually experience it in person over time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt. I mean, we travel, we all, when I go overseas to sell wine, I try and go and see places and all that. And I see how other people do it, and I compare what we do, and I still think, there's room to be small is also beautiful, and just be sincere about what you do, and it will pay off. That's my motto, really.
Yeah. So, Rick, your wine journey has been a lifelong one. But what is your most important thing that you've learned through this journey?
Well, as you can quite clearly hear from my conversation with you, there are a few things. I mean, for me, the biggest thing is that, making wine is, anybody can make wine. Anybody can ferment grapes. Anybody can put it in a bottle and you can put a label on there and you can tell a beautiful story, and the consumer will probably read your story and listen to your story and maybe be blown away initially by what you say. But at the end of the day, the consumer needs to taste the wine and feel whether they like it or not, and does everything gel with them? Does it all make sense? So what I'm trying to say is marketing is a very important part of your product. But at the end of the day, still, what you put in the bottle, you need to be proud of what you've done and be sincere in what you do. That's basically what Hutting, our winemaker, and myself and my team with Desmond, that's what we do here, is the sincerity, honesty, integrity. In the winemaking, you have to do it. You don't get 2 or 3 chances. You know, you have to be real and stay true to your choice and your ideas and what you do.
Awesome. So, I mean, you've touched on it already, but I'm going to ask you again to give us your favorite wine quote, because I loved it.
No, as I say, Old Man Carnets, I wish I'd met him. His
Yeah.
daughter, Annemie, I knew, the spinster, but Old Man Carnets, you know, that these are little things. Seeing is believing, tasting is the naked truth. That is what our motto is. That's what you have to believe in.
Oh, awesome. Ryk, it's been such a pleasure talking to you, and I think people are going to find this, our listeners will find this extremely interesting. How do people find you? If they want to get hold of you, whatever, how do they get hold of you?
They must just come to Mirati, look for this grumpy oak with the long hair that walks around. Yeah.
Okay,
No,
awesome.
you know what? Easily, our website's very easy. It's just, you know, www.mirati.co.za. We've got a great website. I've got a lovely team here. Lawrence in the tasting room. Desmond is our sales and marketing guy. And then Hutting, my winemaker, and the assistant winemaker, and our team in the vineyards. We're a small group, but anybody who comes here and asks, where's Hutting, where's Ryk, where's Desmond, they will all be able to tell you where we are. So it's a nice family, you know, working family that lives and works here now.
Okay, well, we'll put the links in the description. And thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I know you guys are busy. And good luck with everything. And thanks.
Yeah, and as we said, you know, we'll do a little promotion on the Magnums now, so people can just follow up on that. We do for this season now, for the winter, and all the COVID time, we'll give a discount on our Magnums. We're doing this promotion, so they can just get in touch, you know, with you or Lisa, and that's a nice little project we'll do as well. So there's some little surprise in there as well.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you very much, Ryk.
All right, great pleasure. Keep well.
Thank you for listening to today's show. Just a quick reminder that you can get that 1.5 liter Magnum discount. So hurry, get in touch with Lisa. She's at Lisa Loves Wines, and we have the link in the description.
Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for your latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube